Hi there, my name is Kimberly Inez Mays, and I want to ask you a question. Are you using AI like a search engine? And if you are, no worries. Who among us has not used ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude to get a quick answer? I know I have. And even if you use Google lately, you get AI search results as well, too. But by its own very definition, a search engine is what we call deterministic. And I'll explain what that is in a minute. But the reason why I'm devoting so much time to talking about definitions that pertain to the world of AI is because I believe that knowledge is power, right? Right now, we have all of this stuff in our pocket. We have the apps in our pocket. We have it loaded on our computer. So it's available to us just by pulling something out of our pocket and then using it, talking to it. And I think this is great. I think that the lower barrier of entry is fantastic and it's phenomenal. And there's so many cool tools and things that are coming out now that use AI or that are AI enabled. But I also think that when you understand how things work, you can be more discerning about which tools to use, how to use them, and more importantly, what to invest your time and money into, right? So I believe that, yes, cool things are cool because I like to invest in them too. But I also believe that knowledge is not boring. Knowledge is empowering because once you see that everything is just ones and zeros and algorithms, not only does it demystify the tool, but it also makes you a better consumer and a better user overall. So AI is definitely not new, right? So some people say, oh, now AI can do this and AI can do that. Artificial intelligence is not new at all. But what is new is that it's commoditized and we can get models that were not available to us even 2, 3, 4 years ago, right? So we have all of this power now available to us for a very low monthly price, but it's not new at all. Large language models are not new. So what's new is the commoditized consumer-facing LLMs in everybody's pocket. And I have no fewer than about 5 of them, 5 of these apps loaded on my computer, my phone. But I feel like it's important to know how they work. And so going back to the whole Google example, Google is deterministic, right? You Google something and for the most part, you will get the same results each and every time. It's deterministic. So same search today, same results tomorrow. It's retrieving stored index pages. When I used to do web design, I used to make sure that when I submitted a website to the search engines that it was indexed so that it tells the search engines, hey, here are all the pages on the website, here are how they are related to each other. And then the search engine will crawl through the website and then it would just index pages so that it would serve up that content to somebody who searched for a particular topic. But large language models are not deterministic. So even if you have the same prompt twice, you're not going to get the same results. And I think this is important to understand because a lot of businesses, what they try to do is replicate a process or a prompt, a series of prompts that another business uses. I'm not saying that you can't borrow or get inspired or use prompts given to you by someone else. What I am saying, though, is that you need to tailor it with your own context and you need to understand what you're going to get relative to the prompt that you give it. So you may have heard of a term called context engineering, but essentially context engineering is really making sure that you give the large language model the appropriate context for giving you or deriving at a result that you want. So this can be examples of your writing, and that's the example that everybody understands. So let's say writing examples. It can be company history or company data. It can be other types of knowledge sources, right? But the prompt is only one part of it and the context is the other part of it. And so it's not really retrieving things in that sense. It's making predictions, predicting the next word over and over in real time. So that's why you're not going to get the same thing twice. And I think that's important to understand because as you build systems in your business, as you build things, you need to understand if you need a more deterministic workflow or a non-deterministic workflow, especially if you're building a program, an app, or if you're building something that is going to be used for your customers or your clients, right? There's a context window. So let me explain what a context window is. So let's say you and I are having a conversation, but I can only remember the things that we've talked about as of the past 3 minutes. So we've been talking for about 15 minutes or so, and you asked me to recall something that we talked about 10 minutes ago. If I have a 3 minute context window or 3 minute memory, I'm not going to be able to retrieve that information because I forgot about it. So that's a really simplistic way of talking about context window in a large language model. It's like their short-term memory. So even if you use the same prompt as someone else, you have to keep that in mind too, the context window, the context that you give it. And there are just a lot of nuances and intricacies that go into context engineering. And that's why your prompts will not yield the same thing over and over as would a Google search. And when you're doing something in your business, you have to understand, okay, have I given it the appropriate context? And am I okay with variation in this process? And if you're not, you may want to look at using something like forms. You may want to look at using another solution rather than a large language model, because that's not how they work. And then there's also another term called temperature that I want to talk to you about. And it is the probability list of possible next words. So the lower temperature that you give it, the more safe, predictable, and robotic your output would be. Now, most of us don't have to worry about temperature, right? Because we're not using APIs. Most of us are just using the model right out of the box. Maybe we subscribe to it, we go to the website, we do what we need to do. But if you go deeper and you start using the API to build your own custom apps or your custom workflows, or if you're stringing things together and there's that temperature setting, that is something that you need to be mindful. And the higher temperature means that it's more creative, more surprising, more alive. And the customer tools like ChatGPT and Claude kind of run at a moderate temperature on purpose. So that moderate temperature will give you that variation in the results. So here is the big takeaway from all of it, right? So you're not really treating AI like a vending machine. When you treat AI like a vending machine, you're fighting against its nature. When you treat it like, okay, if I put a coin in, here's what I expect, you're going to get different things each time. So it's not a flaw, it's what's making it responsive to the context that you're giving it. So with that being said, being mindful of context windows, and even temperature can make or break what you're trying to do with a large language model, whether you are just using it to create documents or analyzing information, data, or even making your own application. Is really important to understand some of these basic terms. So it doesn't have to be complicated. And I feel like learning these things does not need to be terribly difficult, but there are just some basics that you need to know. So as you go about using AI in your business or for fun, even in your life, just know how things work. There's no magic to it. It is literally science, ones and zeros. And my job is just to make it easier for you. All right. So that's all I got to say about that for now. If you found this helpful, if you've learned a thing or two, go ahead and share, because sharing is caring. And also, I am going to be coming out with more content around the basics of AI education. Yes, a lot of it's going to be super fun. Like, we're going to vibe code some things. I'm going to show you some new applications, some new things that came out that you can do that are a lot of fun. But a lot of it's going to be very technical, and not technical, but in a sense, but it's going to be very educational so that you can make the best decisions for you, your business, and your life. All right. So with that said, I wish you a great day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.